All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever's in the world you are streaming. Let me get up in these comments. All right, people. This has been an incredibly busy couple of hours for me personally. This is my last stream that I'm doing here in the United States before I head to the airport to go to from JFK to Buenos Aires overnight, just so I can land and then do tomorrow's show from Buenos Aires. So I wanted to stop in because we had so much news dropped overnight. 3:15 local on the Eastern Seaboard, right when I was putting the covers on, getting ready to go to bed. News drops on CP3, and now all of a sudden that is practically irrelevant because of Giannis Antetokounmpo going to the market. All right, so let's talk this through. What do you guys want to discuss? Because CP3 was a major story that not only speaks to the Clippers' futility, may hamstring them when it comes to signing future free agents and retaining them, but Chris Paul's illustrious career being, in a way, I don't want to say tarnished, but just disregarded. All that he has done for this franchise dating back to Lob City in the early 2010s, that he's just relieved of his duties. And that they did this so far in advance of this is all intertwined, by the way, so just bear with me for a second. This is all intertwined because there are things such as deadlines and restrictions when it comes to being able to trade a player, being able to waive a player, especially one that signs an extension or a new deal during the offseason. So this all happened with Chris Paul. So I had a character, by the way, someone like him would go onto Instagram to get all petty and cryptic with the deuces going up into the Instagram story, unless something just had a complete falling out, that him and Ty Lue weren't even on speaking terms, leads to this. This, once again, is a guy that trailblazed the path for all the executives and ownership group. Steve Ballmer does not become owner of this team unless the pressure is put on the NBA by the players who were protesting before games. Remember, the Clippers turned their warm-up shirts inside out and they put on black socks in protest of Donald Sterling. And for CP, not just that, but for everything between then and now for CP3's career, to just kind of end with the Clippers like that. Woof. But I know that's not what you guys want to talk about because now Giannis is available. And here we go again. The Luka Doncic one was obviously surprising to everyone involved and all of us. But now that we know Giannis could potentially be on the table and he's working with Milwaukee Bucks front office on next steps, that implies there's gonna be a resolution in the coming weeks. Now, Shams' report did not say he's demanding a trade or any of this, but more so working towards a resolution, which we should have in the next couple of weeks, which means he's eventually going to ask for a trade, but he's doing this professionally, which what has transpired in the past 12 hours is a step in the right direction. Okay. It is almost vacation. Well, it's not vacation. It's like workcation, Dylan, but I recognize what you're saying. I will be working from Buenos Aires for the next month. Okay. Is there anything to talk about today? Totally no drama whatsoever. So I'm about to go to bed last night, and then all the CP3 news drops, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. All right. So I can catch up with that. It takes about 30 minutes. It eats up a majority of today's morning show, and then the Giannis news drops right exactly at noon Pacific time, which was 3 o'clock here. And it was all by design because Brian Windhorst was on ESPN Cleveland earlier today. I don't know how many people are listening to ESPN Cleveland, but this story was clearly scheduled for exactly when NBA Today started on ESPN because Shams led the show and drew a ton of eyeballs with his report. And then Brian Windhorst was reminding everyone on his hit with ESPN Cleveland earlier today that Giannis has already told Milwaukee, this shouldn't even be news, that his desired trade partner is the New York Knicks. There was this exclusive window of the two sides negotiating. And now we're kind of here, that the Washington Wizards, practically the Generals, have broken the Milwaukee Bucks. That was one of the worst losses of the season in DC the other night with Giannis back. You couldn't even use the excuse that he wasn't there, and they were spiraling out of control. Their one win in the past couple of weeks has been against like the Brooklyn Nets. Like, this team stinks. It has always stunk. They are in salary cap hell because there is a $22 million zombie contract for the next 5 years on the books. They are going to be $22.5 million behind the rest of the 29 other franchises, anyone else who doesn't have stretch and wave on the books, because they were prioritizing making Giannis happy at any cost right now. Well, that cost is going to be $22.5 million, plus all the draft picks that it took to get Damian Lillard. You brought in Miles Turner. You gave him a bag, trying to make some headlines, stealing him from Indiana. All was kind of well in the first couple of weeks of the season, but the moment that the team faces adversity, they fold like a house of cards in the wind. And now Giannis is beginning the process of exiting properly, if that's the resolution that comes about. So I did this on purpose because I wanted to provide the context for anyone that watches this back on replay or has questions. Now that I'm going to start paying attention to the chat, I got you guys right here so I can see you. Just know that's what the scenario is. And because the New York Knicks were mentioned, let's remember that this is a hard-capped league, right? The NBA, you have to be able to, if you're in the aprons, if you are in the aprons, like the Knicks, Milwaukee, even if they're not in them, they're close to, and it makes completing deals extremely difficult. Milwaukee Bucks salaries. So I want to put this on the screen for you guys, just so we can use it as a reference point when I'm talking on top of it. And then, of course, New York Knicks salaries. And it's boring talk, but it needs to be said that a guy like Mikal Bridges, who signs an extension, cannot be moved until certain dates. There's a December 15th restriction, a January 15th restriction, February 1st. And in the case, if Mikal Bridges is going to be involved in a deal, then you're talking about Milwaukee having to wait until February when they want to get this resolved in, per their own words, the next couple of weeks. Okay. With that said, Giannis, just so you can see, makes $54.1 million. If you look at the Knicks cap table, who's the guy that they would want? Of course, it's Karl-Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby. Brunson's not going anywhere. Mikal Bridges, 24.9, goes up to 33.4. So if I am the Bucks, you know what I'm doing? And I can only trade with these Knicks. You can have Giannis, but you're taking Kyle Kuzma in his 22.4. You're taking with the exception of Damian Lillard, you're taking every damned contract on our books with it, because we are rebuilding and also trying to reload. We have Giannis and you don't. So they will probably want Karl-Anthony Towns in the equivalent of OG, and then you take all the contracts to fill, plus all draft picks. The Knicks don't have many draft picks because they spent them on Mikal Bridges. So this is going to be a multi-team deal. It has to be, for them to get back the assets they so desire. But just know, straight up front, guys, you know me, of course, as a Knicks fan, but knowledgeable about the rest of the league. I am not trading Karl-Anthony Towns and OG Anunoby for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Zero desire to do that. Shout out to our partners at ProfitX, by the way. Please give them some support if you enjoy peer-to-peer sports investing. I'll keep them on the screen for the time being. All right. Let me come back to the chat for a second, actually. So let me catch up on some of these because I've been blabbering a lot. Let me see what you guys have to say. Let me pull this up. Katie Marlowe says the Clippers are the biggest dumpster fire franchise across all sports. As petty as MCC says, as petty as CP3 can be, I'm skeptical that this is all on the Clippers and Ty Lue. Something had to happen, by the way, behind closed doors, in which these two guys who are very well respected, we're talking about an NBA champion head coach in Ty Lue, the point guard Chris Paul, not just the point guard, but the point guard with that franchise, and probably the most notable player from the Clippers ever. If not Blake Griffin, it's Chris Paul, the best player in franchise history. For them to not be on speaking terms and to go out like this, I will agree, it has to go both ways. There's just no other explanation. If it's nobody's fault, it's everybody's fault. Danny asks, why is everything happening at the same damn time? I would like to know that as well. And it's always on travel days when you have something else to do, right? I'm surprised there's not a 5-star police chase going on at this very moment. But as we like to say in the police chase world, CBC chases breed chases, storylines breed storylines. Even before we discussed Chris Paul news, not even talking about the crazy games last night, overtime in New Orleans, as well as a close game there in the Chase Center in Golden State. Zion Williamson is just out. Is he ever going to play another game for the Pelicans the way that this is headed? The Philadelphia 76ers get a player participation policy violation for playing Joel Embiid when listing him out. Like, this shit never stops, man. It is WWE Monday Night Raw, but it's Raw and SmackDown. So many different storylines are being developed to lead you to the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. Everyone's putting their ideas in the chat. Rui, connect, first round pick for Giannis. Oh, I'm sure they're in a rush to do that, Raka. John Collins, Bogdanovich, Tyler. What are we doing? No picks for Giannis. Who says no? Everyone says no. Everyone's putting their deals in the chat. And I can't yell at any of you anymore about this, because normally I would take the time and say that's just not even possible because of some December 15th restriction. But everyone can say whatever they want because of Nico Harrison. This is what you did. Now, no trade is ever going to be considered unrealistic because of what you did. You can just say things like trade Luka for Anthony Davis and Max Christie, and someone might say yes. Discourse is ruined forever. Game of the night tonight. Games stink. Games stink tonight. It's got to be this one down here. Pistons at Bucks. This is going to be awkward. Pistons at Bucks. Bucks only catching 4.5. Is this a Giannis statement game? Is this, I'm going to make Milwaukee proud, we're going to go out there and beat the top-seeded Pistons game? Or do they just completely wilt under the heat lamp? What's up, Coach Mike? Welcome in. Slim says Nico ruined mock trades. That he did. Well, not ruined, but validated all of them, which then dilutes the product that nobody cares anymore because you can just say anything and it could happen. Your fallback is, oh, you're calling me ridiculous? You're calling me ridiculous? The Mavs once traded Luka Doncic. Anything can happen. Someone, Connor in the chat, Toby, Ron Holland, meaning Tobias Harris, Ron Holland, Jaden Ivey, and all of Detroit's picks and swaps. That's not enough. We're talking about Giannis here, people. I think Giannis is going to fetch a return now that we know there's an open market and the two general managers are not operating in silence. Since there's an open market, I'm going to think the Bucks are going to get back the equivalent of what the Nets got from Mikal Bridges and the James Harden trade to Brooklyn. I think it's going to be combined. That's what we're talking about, the return for Giannis. And this trade is going to make Nico look even worse because of what they'll get back. Now, no matter who you bring in, because a caller on the show earlier suggested, hey, Miami's always been big game hunting. We have Tyler Hero. He's a Wisconsin kid. He's always been on the block. He's showing that he still plays at an all-star level. You combine that with Bam and some other dudes, and you send them to Milwaukee so that the Bucks fans can continue to show up and support the team around a guy that is homegrown, because it's Halliburton and it's Tyler Hero as the 1-2 Wisconsin kids, right? That way, when you have to take down all of Giannis's billboards, that we can replace that with a new message that keeps fans supporting the team in the city. And I say this all the time, people, about Giannis, all the time. He's more than basketball in that city. And I don't mean that in a corny way. I mean it more literally. He is a walking, breathing economy. It is a smaller market, which all of that downtown industry relies on the Milwaukee Brewers. Green Bay is not Milwaukee, but it's close by. But the Bucks, there are restaurants, there are hotels, there are people that work at these places that rely on the tourism and the relevance that Giannis Antetokounmpo brings to the Milwaukee Bucks. And even if you were to bring in a Tyler Hero and get a great deal, it's going to suffer the moment that he's no longer wearing that uniform. So the decision that the Bucks are going to make is not only basketball related, but economically speaking, has massive implications as well. That's why they have always held on to him, despite it maybe not being making the most basketball sense to continue to stretch and wave Damian Lillard, to give a giant bag to Miles Turner to convince him to come over from Indiana, to surround Giannis with Ryan Rollins, with all due respect, as his Robin. Like, he knows I'm in my prime, and this team has no chance of getting past the second round of the playoffs in a dream scenario. But feel free in the chat, because I know the NBA has been filled with so many damn storylines today. OKC was awesome last night. There's so much to discuss. This is not just Giannis and CP3. If you have any questions, this is live Q&A, and I'm getting all inspiration for conversation from the chat. And I hope to keep this going until roughly, what time is it here? 4:42. My flight is, I got to start boarding around like 8:30. I'm going to hop the train, get some dinner. I'm going to put a burrito in my bag, because it's a 10.5-hour flight. It's a red eye. And then I'm going to land and go straight to doing tomorrow's show while watching the games on the plane. So, like, committed to this fucking life over here. All right. But I'm on a somewhat of a strict schedule here. Okay. Hey, what's up, Vegan Barbie? Says maybe it's a CP3 Udoka situation. A Udoka situation. I take it back. I'm sorry. I'm a Clippers fan. I'm spiraling. I probably should have read the second part of that sentence first. All right. No. Can someone offer ownership percentage of the team for Giannis? I think they only do that in the Saudi Arabia soccer leagues to convince those guys to come over, and Cristiano Ronaldo. I don't know if that's necessarily legal here in the US. They won't even let in private equity firms. They won't let in any foreign money yet that is a majority stakeholder in the teams. They can be minority owners, but not those percentages where they are the governors. Burrito test. I'm going to have so many. I got all my devices ready. Delta has free Wi-Fi, so I'll be watching as many games as I can. And unfortunately, my Knicks video, my post-game video, is probably going to be non-existent because I'm going to be on a flight, but maybe it'll be over by halftime. Good get-right game for Jalen Brunson tonight. Real quick, what are the Knicks laying after losing in Boston last night? So second leg of a back-to-back. Knicks are laying 9 points at home right here against the Charlotte Hornets. This feels like, because Jalen Brunson's been struggling a little bit, this does feel like to me, people, a good spot for some Jalen Brunson props. I'm going to guess 24.5 is his, without even looking. 20, oh my God, 29.5? Holy shit. I mean, it is the Hornets, but that's a shit ton of points, man. And he's been struggling from the field a little bit. God damn. Wow. Anyway, back to it. We need, MCC says, we need Uncle Dennis in the mix of this Giannis trade. No, we certainly do not. I will tell you one thing. The Clippers have given up all championship aspirations for the next couple of years, the way that this CP3 trade or CP3 transaction has unfolded. Why, if I'm a free agent, why would I ever sign with you unless you are paying me so much money that I can wipe my tears away with $100 bills when things go wrong? Why would I ever sign with the Clippers? They have sold snake oil to Blake Griffin. We're going to put your jersey up in the rafters. They traded him to Detroit. CP3 is responsible for all of these guys in the front offices having jobs, all these presidents of basketball operations and Steve Ballmer, and yet this is how it all plays out. Why would I ever sign with you unless it's just to make money? Hey, River Plate in the chat. How come I'm going to BA? Why not? It's almost the summer solstice. It's 4 o'clock and it's pitch black outside. It's cold. It's miserable. So if I can take my job with me to Argentina where it's not cold and sun is up until 8 p.m. and I can get some culture and food on weekends, I'm going to do it. And that's exactly what I'm doing. LaMelo to Miami as a part of what? As a part of what? You got to be more specific. Part of the deal with Giannis to Miami too? Would I trade Jalen Johnson for Giannis? That would hurt, but yes. But the problem is, I don't know if you're doing that with the uncertain future of Trae Young. Would I trade Trae Young for Giannis and then have him sign an extension with Milwaukee? That would keep us somewhat relevant. But if Giannis is over there with the leverage now, because he's on the books for, take a look at this. He's on the books, 54.1 million this year, 58.4, and then he's got a player option in 2027. So you're getting Giannis for a guaranteed season and a half before he ultimately opts out, unless he has a major injury or something. He's going to opt out of that 62.7 and sign a galactic deal right after that. So with that said, if I'm a team that is going to try and do what Golden State did with Jimmy, remember how that all went down when he lost his joy? Said, trade me to Phoenix, trade me to Phoenix, trade me to Phoenix. Well, they traded him to Golden State, and he still ended up signing an extension anyway when he didn't have to. So there will be a team out there that is like, we have the deal that you're asking for. We would like to trade for Giannis. And Giannis is saying, don't trade me there. Well, I'm sorry, Giannis, but we heard you. We got the best deal, but we couldn't get to terms that it makes it worthwhile for us. Or you're siphoning away all the talent from New York that you're going to end up there on a blank roster surrounded by Jalen Brunson and the Toon Squad, the same way that Carmelo Anthony required Ray Felton, Danilo Gallinari, Timothy Mozgov. Everyone went to Denver, and then he was left with just dust. Why is user 27577 is asking, why is it not OKC? Who else can give that haul and remain competitive? Okay, so I would like to refute your question in two ways. First of which is OKC is so good, they may not only break the regular season wins record, repeat as champions. You do not fix something that's not broken. They have more than 15 guys. They have more than 15 guys that can be a part of the rotation right now, to the point they can't even give roster spots to them. They have a lottery pick who hasn't even touched the floor in Nikola Topic yet, and they may have another top 5 pick coming in due to the Los Angeles Clippers and their futility. Why would I fix something that's not broken? Because Giannis is an overall 97 in NBA 2K and you can put him next to Shea, you would change the entire chemistry of that team overnight. They are great because they are as good on defense as they are on offense. They get along well. They have basketball telepathy. You saw it last night at the Chase Center. I'm not touching that. Even though Lou Dort may be on his way out, Isaiah Hartenstein, they can seamlessly replace those guys with rookie contract deals that you hardly even know their names. And then the second part of your question, sorry, I got to scroll up. Who else can give that haul? The San Antonio Spurs can give that haul. So let me look up real quick. Let me just show you the cap table. This has always been probably the most ideal landing spot for me, just because of their excess of point guards that they still, despite their success thus far, here we go. Despite their success thus far, De'Aaron Fox, Victor Wembanyama, Dylan Harper, And who else do I want to put in this category? Steph Castle. I will almost guarantee that they have played 0 meaningful games together yet. As soon as Dylan Harper got hurt, De'Aaron Fox was returning to the lineup. And eventually they are going to have too many options at a very specific position. Now, the Spurs way, of course, is to draft guys, mold them to the culture, organically grow them, and they have proven time and time again they are capable of doing that. But you have, for example, you could send Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Dylan Harper, and Steph Castle for Giannis, Kuzma, and a salary cap filler from there. If you want Giannis, you are the place I think that can provide the Bucks enough assets. Just take your pick. Honestly, look at all these deals that you could use to put in together to match $54 million. You go Vassell, Keldon or Barnes, Harper, picks, you name it, Steph Castle. And while that's not going to make anyone in Milwaukee say, ooh, I got to buy season tickets again. You know what? I'm over Giannis. It is the second avenue of optionality that grants you a more long-term stability to rebuilding what you once had in a championship team. It's going to take some time, but you could get some names in there that give them 2 or 3 years, might develop like Tyrese Halliburton, might develop like one of these young stars that didn't hit the ground running like Luka Doncic, but might be good in a couple of seasons and be the best player on a playoff team. You can get those bodies in-house and you have team control over all of them. So just mix and match to the point where if I'm Milwaukee, any of these options I am listening to. But it's not Tyler Hero. It's not the Wisconsin kid. It's not Karl Anthony Towns from New York, who will keep you as a playoff relevant team for quite some time. That's probably what they want. It's the best balance, but would you want Karl Anthony Towns there disgruntled, even though he's under contract? I don't know if I would. That's not a team that's ever competing for a championship without Giannis on it. So why not look to San Antonio? You get to trade Giannis out of the Eastern Conference, so you don't have to see him more than twice per year. You get back guys who are bona fide potential rookies or young players, a Steph Castle, Dylan Harper, so on and so forth, Devin Vassell. And then you start running that team out there and you become the Eastern Conference's version of the Phoenix Suns, who are overachieving and emulating a lot of those teams that have been gutted in the past that somehow just find their way back to relevancy. I'm thinking of the D'Angelo Russell Brooklyn Nets back in the day. Remember that team with Jared Allen? I think Karis LeVert out there too. Didn't Jacques Vaughn take them to the bubble? And am I remembering all of that correctly? It's doable. You're seeing it this season. And you're kidding yourself if Milwaukee got 3 of these names on this list that you're looking at right now, that they wouldn't at least have a path forward with something, building towards something. If you go for Cat and OG and some of these other names, I just don't know if that has shelf life for more than a couple of seasons before they get old, injured, or disgruntled themselves. And then they're having the same conversation with the Milwaukee Bucks front office that Giannis is due to have here in the foreseeable future. And they say, contract is coming up. I'm not going to re-sign here. You should probably move me now. So what was the whole point then of trading Giannis? If you don't get those future assets, it's a balance that you have to think, well, we're going to lose our fans. We're going to lose that economy in downtown Milwaukee. How long are we willing to wait to rebuild it? That's the question I want answered. Someone in the chat said, how has the Bucks GM not been fired? Horst, they won a championship in 2021. That was 4 years ago. Any chance Golden State is a dark horse? And what does Golden State have to offer? Kuminga? No. Unless they get other teams involved. Giannis to the West is OD. And the East is just why wouldn't you want to sign in the East if you were one of the 5 or 10 best players in the world? It is such a barren wasteland. The Pistons, the Knicks, the Cavs, the Magic, kind of the Hawks. Oh, it's just so different. How about the Magic laying 8 at home against those Spurs tonight? Bunch of stinkers of games here. Clippers, Hawks. Well, that's going to be a doozy. Don't have high aspirations for that one. Nets, Bulls, Kings, Rockets. 16-point dogs? Is this right, Prophet X? 16-point dogs? Kings, Rockets tonight? Jesus. Zero credibility to a Kings team that defeated Denver in Denver. My God, is that the biggest spread of the night? That's embarrassing. You are laying an amount of points that was usually reserved for the process 76ers against the Golden State Warriors. That number was close to that. Good grief. Anyway. Well, I wouldn't blame you if they lose by 30. I didn't mention the Raptors in the East. Ooh, Asset City right there. What's it going to cost you? Scotty Barnes. Start there. You're going to start there, whether you like it or not. Scotty Barnes. What else? You probably keep Ingram. Let me put together something here. Let me look at this roster. Grady Dick for sure. Whoever can, some of these won't be able to be traded for a little bit. Let's take a look, shall we? We'll start with Scotty because he's under contract. I know, Ryan. Why? What do you mean, Scotty? You're trading. If you want Giannis, you're trading Scotty. But Masai's not there anymore. What's that relationship like? So to match 54, we start with Scotty. We need another 16. So it's going to be Scotty, Grady, 39, 44. So we need another like 10 or so. They just don't have enough. It's going to have to be Scotty, Jakob, and Grady. Yeah, that's not enough. It's going to have to be like every single pick under the sun for the next decade. I don't want to have to. The whole point of trading for Giannis is I get to keep one of Scotty or Brandon Ingram. I don't know if Milwaukee would want RJ Barrett at this point at 27.7. I don't know if he's seen as a positive or negative asset. He's just kind of neutral. Fine player, but if he's making 27.7 and then almost 30 next year, and then he comes off the books, that's just not something that I'm rushing to acquire to put on my team for my long-term rebuild. Oh, Jakob Poeltl's out tonight. Speak of the devil. Who they playing? Who he play for? Wait, Raptors aren't even playing. So he's out for his next game. Wow, he must be really sick. Toronto. No, Toronto. Okay. Shout out to Prophet X. Okay. Where was I? Talk to me, chat. I'll be here for I'll give you another 10 minutes or so. Then I got to be on my way. Any other questions? I just wonder if Giannis says, like, it's the Knicks. Trade me to the Knicks or just let me die in peace. How much leverage does he have? I would imagine they want to do him right, especially after what just happened with Chris Paul and the Clippers. Do you guys agree, by the way, that OKC is the best landing spot for Chris Paul as an assistant coach? He can't compete in those practices. I used the analogy last night. I said, considering how many of the the great players OKC has in their farm system, I bet those practices. This is how AJ Mitchell, by the way, got into the starting lineup. He's just busting everyone's ass in practice. It must be the basketball Hunger Games, and we would be hearing a cannon for Chris Paul within 15 minutes if he was forced at this age to play at that competition level. He'd die. So save the roster spot because OKC needs all 15 for the way that they play and fight through adversity, especially if they're going to be going for the 74 wins. Luka Doncic ruled out for Thursday. Hello there. Why not hire Chris Paul as an assistant coach so that he still gets a ring? He can be Udonis Haslem in practice and not occupy one of the spots. So once he gets traded or waived or just retires, Shea has said word for word, because I found the video where he was speaking about Chris Paul after the conference finals, in that he's his mentor. It's the guy he's closest with in the league today. Chris has said when he wasn't with his family because he was in Oklahoma City or San Antonio or whatever, Shea and his family were always someone that he felt this special connection with. And Chris Paul has been around and seen a lot. So why not continue that mentorship the same way Obi-Wan was supposed to train and raise Anakin, put him through the Jedi trials, and be there as a basketball muse wearing the team's polo instead of the team's uniform. That doesn't affect your salary cap. Chris Paul doesn't need to play anymore. And that's assuming because if you sign with OKC as an assistant coach, you're probably getting that ring that has been so elusive throughout your career. And if you do want to spend all that time with your family, because his kids are now teenagers, and he has spoken about this publicly, that's the priority in his life, then he should probably consider just, let me go get this ring this year, and I'll be back in June, and I'll never leave the house again. That makes the most sense to me. Shea already won, yeah, but that doesn't mean he still can't develop his game and grow and adapt to how the game evolves every day, ending in Y. It's like we're watching something different. I don't agree that because Shea has won, he no longer needs the consultation of other pros. We see champions go work out with Hakeem Olajuwon all the time in the offseason. This is a pretty standard process. I'm going to stand up for a second, people, because my back has been bothering me a little bit. I slept on a kind of a crappy bed and sitting on some crappy seats. Oh, this is what happens when you get old. I'm in the SiriusXM studio right now. Things just hurt, man. What are you guys cracking jokes about in the chat? Let me see. Hold on. Let me catch up. Any chance Chris Paul returns to the Wolves? No, that's not the resolution. The resolution for Minnesota is James Harden. And you get that done with Naz Reid, Dillingham, Shannon Jr., and picks. That's what Minnesota has to do to be in the same league as Oklahoma City. Chris Paul's addition is not going to help anyone. He can't be out there for more than 10, 15 minutes anymore against other second units. Have I been following the NASCAR trial? Kind of. I've seen Michael Jordan sketches with him sitting in the front of the courtroom, but not much other than that. And speaking of Michael Jordan, did the stars align last night or what? Because the interview that has been airing on NBC that they keep cutting up and showing at different points as a part of the Tuesday night broadcast, he was speaking on having a conversation with Minnesota Timberwolves executives this summer about Anthony Edwards' inability to navigate double teams, which is kind of a thing. It's what's preventing him from taking that leap to being Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a bona fide MVP. And then last night, the New Orleans Pelicans were sending double team after double team at him, and Finch makes an adjustment at halftime, which requires Anthony Edwards to be out there for every single second of the second half, plus overtime. He plays 29 straight minutes. But the tactical change that was deployed by Coach Finch had Anthony Edwards navigating double teams as well as we've ever seen. So he had learned the skill of shooting three-pointers in volume at an above average rate. Now he's spending time in experiencing different forms of double teams, of which he has clearly struggled on how to split them, on how to pass around them, over them, through them, when to shoot, when to blitz. He always chose the wrong item on the menu in those big spots against the Denver Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. That may not be the case anymore. Now, the New Orleans Pelicans are a lot different defense than OKC. But you got to start somewhere. And I thought last night in New Orleans was an expose. And he spoke about it in the post-game press conference when Dane Moore asked him the question about how did you make it look so easy getting around those double teams? And he had a very precise answer. What team do I personally want Giannis on? I don't want him in New York. I like my team just the way that it is. I think they're the best team in the East. So I will say San Antonio. Wayne in the chat just said, do you know Tomas Isalo is 1-23 against teams with a record above 500? God damn, is that true? Sheesh. What do you mean I need to start lifting weights? I'm in good shape. Heel turn in the chat. Any chance LA gets a wing from New York by being a third party? For sure. And that's what they need. Jared Vanderbilt's not going to be a part of this equation come playoff time. But you can't trade Mikal if he's going to be. Why would I trade Mikal? Why would I touch anything with the Knicks, considering what they just went through last year and how they've added to this team's depth and versatility on the bench? Why would I ever mess with this? If you're talking about trading Mikal and the whole Villanova culture and chemistry that you finally have gotten to the zenith with, now is not the time. And he can't even be moved after you gave him that deal. That's hard for me to believe that's going to happen. Last call, chat. Last call before I hop the train. I'd want OG for LA. Good luck. Everyone would want OG. Does Mitchell Habino in the chat, does Mitchell Robinson regressing at the free throw line worry you long term? Have you seen that? What is the free throw percentage after last night? I haven't looked yet. It was 15% going into that game. He made one, though. All you have to do is make one, and that free throw percentage probably went from 15 up to like 22, just with one made free throw. He missed the others. That's for sure. 1 of 4 last night, I think. That's as bad of a free throw as you will ever see in the NBA. But he's so good that you're willing to live with it. Do I think the Knicks can do anything to OKC in a 7-game series? No, the Knicks are going to get slaughtered in the finals by OKC. But someone's got to represent the East, and I do think that'll be the Knicks. Any wagers tonight? I don't think I have any, Shaden, as of this moment. Probably some live. I'll look at specifically this Pistons-Bucks game live. If I can get a cheaper Pistons number, I'll consider it. But I got to see the way that Milwaukee comes out and plays. Same with LA. If they look like they're just punting, like you just hop on and hope that snowball turns into an avalanche. Lomax in the chat. Do I need to do your Knicks reaction video? I figured people won't care as much because tonight's against the Hornets. And the Knicks have been great at home. It's probably be a blowout. Hornets suck. 9-point spread. Sarah, stop it. Sarah says, even though the Knicks can't beat the Celtics without Tatum, it almost happened again last night where the Celtics are up by 20 points in the fourth quarter against the Knicks and you almost blew it. Beat them with Tatum, without Tatum. The Celtics are not a worry for New York. I'm sorry. Thank you for your concern, though. Eric asks, looking at the upcoming weeks, do you have a specific day of an NBA slate that is going to be crazy? No, nothing comes to mind. The NBA Cup is coming up here soon, so that means there's going to be only a couple of games per day. So they're stacking these 9-game slates this week. On that note, people, I must bid adieu and say adios. The next time you see me on this particular show will be Friday in Argentina. I will be back on the air Sirius XM tomorrow. So if you guys enjoy that program, we'll be back. But that has been today's Q&A. I wanted to get some thoughts out about Giannis, and I hope the Knicks hold the line without giving up too much, because I love this team in the way that it's constructed, and I do not fix something that's not broken. Appreciate the safe travels, everybody. I'm going to head to JFK. But until next time, I will see you in the timeline. Adios.